monsters.
The Teton Dam was supposed to support the land and its people. Instead, it caved in, broke into pieces, and flooded several towns. We'll show you what led to the end. Cities aren't waiting for lawmakers to take action after a North Idaho town banned kratom from the shelves. Now another city wants to chart a similar course. Well, according to the Idaho Department of Water Resources, there are more than 1,000 documented dams across the state. They range from massive electricity-generating hydroelectric structures to small agricultural reservoirs. But out of all the ones still standing and being structurally sound, what happened over in southeastern Idaho? Following the Teton Dam collapse, the big question everyone had was how? How could this have happened? How could a $100 million dam, which would cost about $600 million today, fail so quickly? Experts say the bottom line was a bad design and a bad site. Our Justin Core also found out that despite that $100 million price tag, not enough money was spent to make sure the dam was safe.
Experts now and 50 years ago say the Teton Dam was never going to work.
The Bureau failed almost at every stage in building this thing. In design,
Reports show it was a bad design on a bad spot to build a dam. First, the foundation of the earthen dam was the natural volcanic rock of the area, which is cracked and porous, which are, of course, the worst conditions for any sort of dam. So, builders filled the cracks in the foundation with a lot of grout, but still not nearly enough. They also used core trenches. That's where they took out the top layer of the foundation and replaced it with silt, which is essentially dust from nearby. They thought it would be watertight. It was not. Neither was the foundation.
Primary reason for the failure was the design of the structure, that the Bureau knew about the site, knew about the problems of the site, but that the dam was not designed appropriately to take into account those problems.
After a snowy winter, there was a lot of spring runoff, and the reservoir was filling quickly. But construction was running behind, and the main channel for safe releases of all that irrigation water was not built yet. So they were only using the auxiliary outlet. It seemed like it was working. It was not. As the reservoir filled, the water flowed into the upper layers of the dam that were naturally cracked and not sealed properly. The water then flowed right into the core, made of silt, which was too light and did not hold together like gravel or clay. So the water started to quickly wash away the very center of the dam.
The dam failed by internal erosion, we call it piping, of the core of the dam.
As the water rushed in, making tunnels of water or piping, the silt was just not heavy enough to fill in and close those tunnels. So the water flowed through the core in bigger and bigger piping. It eventually flowed under and past the dam, destroying where the water should have been released.
The design of the dam did not adequately take into account the foundation conditions and the characteristics of the soil used for filling the key trench.
On the morning of June 5th, crews finally saw the first symptom of the dam's illness. It had secretly been eaten away, and water started flowing from the base of the dam, quickly turned into a gush of water and then a geyser. Bulldozers tried to fill the hole, but they got swallowed up, and the drivers had to be rescued. A sinkhole and whirlpool then formed on the upstream side as the reservoir was quickly draining right underneath the dam, destroying it minute by minute, until at noon, it collapsed. The wall of water wiped towns off the map, killing 11 people and thousands of animals.
the failure of that dam preceded physical failure, and that was failure in the bureaucratic process, that is the agency, failure in Congress to get proper information to do a proper job of judging whether the project was justified or safe, and failure finally in the judicial process, because the judicial process failed to take note of the fact that the Bureau hadn't provided information about safety hazards.
That report followed an investigation showing that the Bureau of Reclamation did not do enough and did not spend enough to overcome the challenges of the site, the porous foundation, and the easily eroded silt in the dam's core. As one expert put it, it was frugality over safety. Idaho's governor agreed.
There was a lot of pretty language in it, but it boiled down to one simple conclusion, that the failure of the Teton Dam was caused by an error in judgment of the Bureau of Reclamation. The fault lies at their door.
Now, if there are any positives to take from this, and there are few, following this disaster, the federal government standardized their dam building safety guidelines across all of their agencies. And you heard Governor Andrus at the end there talking about how the fault lies at the door of the Bureau of Reclamation.
And that was the big question, too, after all of this has happened. Did the Bureau ever truly take responsibility for the dam's failure?
Not explicitly at all, which again is why Governor Andrus and other state officials you heard from back then made sure to place the blame on the Bureau of Rec there explicitly. The Bureau, now, they did pay out more than $300 million in claims after this dam failure, which, as you talked about, 3 times the cost of the dam. So if they had paid even a fraction of that $300 million in actual safety measures for the dam from the start, this would not have happened, and they would have saved lives.
Yeah, seriously, they would have saved 11 lives, to be specific. Yeah, it's incredible to see what happened there. And growing up in that area, too, you know that there's a lot of porous rock. I remember having lava, like there's lava remnants in my backyard in American Falls. So interesting.
They looked around, they're like, we'll use this porous rock, we'll use this silt, we'll make this dam out of dust and a sponge, and exactly what you'd think would happen happened.
Oh, okay. Justin, thank you. Well, we have more viewer comments that you have sent in this week, sharing your family's history with the dam collapse. And what we've all seen is the people stepping in to help those in need. We have Stephen Eagle, who writes, "My wife and I joined alumni, staff, and students from Idaho State University in placing 80-pound sandbags 3 feet high around a Blackfoot motel before the Teton Dam water had arrived. When it did, it rose to 5 feet high. We returned the next weekend to drag logged 200-pound sandbags, that's so heavy, into loaders on tractors, and the motel's cleanup began." I actually heard some of those stories from documented interviews that they had done at the library. Incredible work, though, that you had done there. Judy texted in saying, "My memory from the Teton Dam is that Eugene was on the dam in his Caterpillar trying to plug the hole that was forming on the top of the dam. He finally had to get off the cat and run to safety." We also heard from Jay, who sounds like they were working hand in hand in that process. Again, I can't even imagine trying to plug a hole as it's collapsing underneath you. It's incredible. We also got a comment from Mitch. He writes, "I was on air at our family-owned radio station in Rexburg that Saturday morning when I received a call that there was a possible leak at the dam. My dad drove to the dam and started broadcasting live from there. He was on air live when the dam breached, telling people on and downstream to evacuate immediately. That's when, quote, all hell broke loose, end quote." And you're right, that audio is still used today. We're actually using that tomorrow, and you will hear from Don Ellis in those moments. But again, it was a scary situation. And again, I say Friday, we will have more comments from all of you viewers. Send them in. We're going to be taking them. But I say we'll talk about those on Friday because, as a reminder, tomorrow on the 208, you will be hearing from those who were there, who survived, who helped tell their stories when the Teton Dam collapsed 50 years ago.
Here in Idaho Falls, with us having a major trauma hospital, we're actually seeing people from outside communities that are potentially passing from overdoses from kratom-related products coming into our county as well.
The kratom conversation did not stop with the legislative session. Idaho towns are taking up the issues themselves, debating what to do about this plant-based substance. Now, during the 2026 legislative session, lawmakers introduced several bills that would regulate the concentrated version known as 7-OH. There was also proposed legislation to straight up ban the substance entirely. Well, people who support using kratom testified that it helped them avoid opioid addiction and that it acts as a safer alternative, while those who want to regulate or ban the drug focused on its harms and the kratom-related deaths it has caused. Now, Sandpoint brought up the issue this spring and ultimately banned the sale of kratom. Retailers there had to get the substance off of their shelves by early May. Well, now, over in Idaho Falls, they are making moves to get the drug out of town. This week, in a work session, City Council talked over a potential ordinance that would ban its sale. It would be up for a vote tomorrow night's council meeting. The Bonneville County coroner joined that work session, urging the city to take action since the state hasn't created any regulations.
But if we can do it on a smaller level, then hopefully it can grow as well to that state level. But if we continue to wait for the state to make a decision on this, we're going to continue to lose people. I have an individual, unfortunately, right now that is at the hospital and will be passing today, and their cause of death will be related to kratom. And I have another individual who 2 weeks ago, and I'm just waiting for the toxicology to come in, but it's another kratom-related death. So it's continuously happening in our community.
And I gotta say, that's tough to hear from the county coroner. Now, by the way, this wouldn't ban the possession of kratom in Idaho Falls. It would just target people selling it or the online retailers trying to sell it to people in the city. Rolling into the future while balancing the past.
Our goal is to create something that is timeless.
Coming up, what its new owners are planning for this Boise East End fixture. For years, it sat quiet. The old Trolley House tucked into Boise's East End. The building, which is on the National Register of Historic Places, has watched the neighborhood change around it for decades. A place where generations gathered and made memories. But as Abby Welch shows us, after a few years of sitting empty, new owners are working to bring the historic space back to life while keeping the character that made it a neighborhood favorite.
The Trolley House has been a staple in the East End for decades.
For more than a century, this building has been whatever Boise needed it to be. A streetcar station, an inn, a restaurant.
It really started out as this historic building that had many lives, and it's been a staple in this neighborhood.
Now the question is simple. What's next for the Trolley House?
We want to create the next legacy for the Trolley House.
But first, let's back up. For more than 100 years, the Trolley House was the final stop for the city's streetcar system. That was called the Boise City Rapid Transit Company. For $1 people could take a streetcar from Main Street to the Trolley House in Warm Springs. Then in 1920, the transit company went bankrupt. The building took on a whole new life as the Avenue Inn, a place for coffee and pancakes before a busy day. By 1976, that building had a new name that stuck, the Trolley House. Before long, it became a go-to breakfast spot for generations of Boise families, winning Boise's best bed and breakfast year after year. But in 2022, the original owner made the hard decision to sell the iconic spot. But one couple who lived in the area couldn't let the opportunity slide by.
We want to be part of, the community. So when the opportunity came up to own it, we jumped on it.
Mandy Carvalho and her husband Matt bought the Trolley House in March of 2026, ensuring the past owners they would keep its history and charm.
It was a passion project for him, so it took a lot of conversations and building trust that, if we take it over, we'll do it justice and bring to life something that he had dreamed of.
But first, Carvalho says renovations needed to happen to make sure the building was healthy.
That's our main mission, is to be a healthy spot. So doing remediations to make sure that, there's no mold, there's no radon, there's no asbestos, there's no lead. That has taken up most of the project right now.
Once that work is done, Carvalho says the real fun can begin.
The dream is to become a place where every family in town feels like they're welcomed.
From a coffee shop in the mornings to a happy hour spot at night, Carvalho says she's reimagining what this historic space can be. And with Adams Elementary right across the street, she says she's making it fun for kids, too.
We're thinking about doing bagged lunches, so ready to go in the morning. So if you forget to make lunch in the morning, that's fine. Just come in, got a few options that are good to go to school. Being a cafe allows us to cater to the families that go to Adams Elementary. Being open early in the morning so they can have a chance to come in, grab breakfast, grab lunch, and also be here after school.
But it'll still keep its historic charm. Carvalho says in the renovation process, she's learned more about the shop, which has made her even more inclined to keep its flair.
So it's really interesting to find these facts that you don't find online, but through word of mouth from people that grew up here.
She found old wallpaper in one side of the building that used to be in the building when it was an ice cream shop.
I posted about it on our Instagram, and someone reached out saying, hey, I think my grandpa put that up when he used to run the ice cream shop. So it feels good. You can tell that it's very rooted in the community.
And she says moments like that are what makes the journey special.
I want our future guests to know that we appreciate them, that we are curating a menu that we feel like is going to be wonderful for the families.
If all goes according to plan, the Trolley House will once again be filled with the sounds of people gathering, families connecting, and new memories being made for another century.
That's the primary goal, is making sure that this building stays here for another 100 years.
Their goal is to open in about 4 months, so grand opening can be expected around November, hopefully.
Okay, one question following up with the wallpaper. So do they plan to keep that old wallpaper in there? Is that part of the design, or what are they doing with that?
Yes, so she said all of the old things that they're finding, they're still trying to find a way to put them back in, have a new purpose for them. So keeping all of that history and charm and the old kind of look to the Trolley House, but making it a little more modern with, the happy hour and the coffee shop and the bagged lunches. So keeping that feel, though, of history.
I think that's the other question that a lot of people had, right? It sat empty because it's not on that direct main street that everybody can just go to. So yeah, is that one thing that they were saying, is those bag lunches should really help kind of hopefully bring that community in?
Yeah, and in that area too, there's not necessarily a lot of parking, it's not necessarily a huge gathering spot right now, but it used to be. And so she wants to really bring that back and make it just a hot spot again for the community.
I think it's really cool, and I'm glad they're restoring it, keeping that history. We love to see the history stay alive.
Yeah.
Abby, thank you. All right, now to the 411. An audit has been completed by the Secretary of State's office. Today, the Ada County Elections Office confirmed that all ballots that were cast for the May primaries were hand counted, and up against the machines, the results, they matched perfectly. So those votes have been verified. Idaho health officials are investigating 2 separate outbreaks tied to raw milk consumption. The Department of Health and Welfare says nearly 60 people have fallen ill since May 19th. Among those, at least 45 tested positive for a bacterial infection. Most reported drinking raw milk from 2 different dairy operations, one in northern Idaho and one in southern Idaho. So if you have consumed raw milk and start to feel sick, you should contact your doctor immediately. And big traffic moves for Caldwell. A new single-lane roundabout at Linden Street and Ward Road is now open, completing a project that broke ground in January. Along with the roundabout, the city added sidewalks, bike lanes, street lighting, and a pedestrian crossing signal. And that's the 411 on the 208.
Well, we started our day here in Boise with beautiful blue skies, but those clouds quickly moved in. Still very warm. We're at 83 in the City of Trees right now, 84 in Twin Falls, upper 60s to upper 70s in the mountains. Those clouds an indication that there's probably some changes to our weather in the works, and we're seeing those winds picking up as well, especially east of Boise. Mountain Home right now seeing those winds at 20 to 25 miles per hour. Mountain Home is one of the areas of concern that's under a fire weather or red flag warning for the rest of this evening for gusty winds that will accompany an approaching cold front. That will also bring the possibility of lightning strikes. Right now, we're just seeing some very light precipitation forming inside the clouds, likely dropping out of the clouds. I don't think any of this is really making its way to the ground. We are very, very dry in the lower levels of the atmosphere, and that is why fire concerns are so elevated this evening. We're very dry, low humidity, and those gusty winds, anything that catches and sparks could spread very quickly. So gustiest winds for the Boise area will likely be from now until about 8 or 9 o'clock tonight. That's when that front will come through. Behind the front will stay breezy overnight into the day tomorrow, but sunshine quickly returns. A really nice Thursday coming on board. But after a high of 88 in Boise today, we'll land at just 80 degrees in the City of Trees tomorrow. 80s for the rest of the Treasure Valley, upper 70s in the Magic Valley. Again, this is tomorrow. Plenty of sunshine across the board, but those breezy winds linger. Hot again on Friday before a weekend cool down that takes us back down to the 70s. All right, we do need to get to a traffic alert for you at 5:23 on this Wednesday. I-84 westbound is a mess. There is no other way to say it. These are 4 different views we're seeing. Upper left is I-84 at exit 0 coming from downtown Boise, getting on the connector. Then we go through Eagle Road, 10 Mile, all the way out to Garrity in Nampa. You can see it is stop and go that entire distance. Look at our current traffic flow. My traffic system is saying it's 128 minutes right now to get from the Flying Y out to Caldwell. I would urge you or anyone you know who might be trying to get on westbound I-84 in the next little bit to find an alternate route. Avoid the freeway if you can until this mess clears up.
Okay, taking a look at your comments. So many good ones today. Again, we're going to get to more on Friday. We have Joanne who says, I hope they reinstall all of the incredible photos of the nearby natatorium. I just ran and asked Abby. It sounds like they plan to put some of those back up and honor that history. So there's your answer, hopefully. We'll see what happens there. Then we have Nikki who says, the Trolley House at one time provided lunches for students at Adams Elementary. I love that this will be an option for parents. It hasn't been there since COVID. Really hope their breakfasts are as good as they were. It's my favorite breakfast place in Boise. Can't wait to try it. So handy for parents because there are days when you just got to get them out and then you forget the lunch. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow.